say thank you for coming and joining us for breakfast this morning. It's summer and things are still easy going, and I appreciate you taking the time to come. So, and already next month in September, I've got Representative Lenny Mira will be our guest speaker, which will be nice. And in October, I've talked to Bill Cutler, who is actually the director of the nutrition project that we work with, but he's a Civil War reenactor and a Civil War history buff, so he'll come with pieces of artifacts and information, and it'll be interesting in October, so that's good. But this morning, we're really fortunate to have Rusty, and he's going to introduce his friends. But before we start and have an important discussion about home safety and safe use of oxygen and some other important pieces of information that they have to share with us, I wanted to take a moment. We lost Mr. Boynton this week, who was our oldest resident in town and had been the most recent recipient of the Boston Post cane, and of course it also really had enjoyed the men's breakfast while he was here. So we're going to miss him dearly. And earlier this summer we lost Joe Sheehan, who had also been a participant, and I will miss him. So just wanted to take a moment and think about that, think about both of them, and keep their families still in our thoughts and our prayers. Certainly both of them I've been involved in a long time, and Mr. Boynton, I'm going to, I used to really enjoy the visits. He'd wander into the office and sit and talk to me about the history that was on a penny.
103.
103, so that's a remarkable one. Absolutely.
Well, we've got another gentleman here that's approaching
Yeah,
100
yeah,
within days.
Well, he told me 7 months. We had a good time celebrating the birthday this year. I've got him definitely scheduled. We're going to be celebrating in 7 months.
We've got the girl all sized up for the cake.
Yeah, all set.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn it right to you.
Sure.
So,
For those of you that don't know me,
if anybody needs anything,
carry on. I'm sorry. No.
no, I'll.
Anybody need coffee, juice?
Yeah, what we've got, if you need it.
Good. Bathroom break before we leave. Start out. I'm not going to talk for very long. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Rusty Ricker. Longtime resident in town. Been in the fire department for some 20 plus years. I'm going to talk today just briefly about basic fire safety in the home for older adults, which is you gentlemen here at the men's breakfast. I have my able-bodied assistants with me. I have Tom Mulligan, Nick Bruno, and Pat Brown. Good morning. So, before we start, does anybody have any questions?
What's the most common source of fire in the home?
Cooking. Cooking. Yes.
Not electrical.
Not electrical, but it depends. I say that with a caveat. Electrical is by far and away the most common source generally. The most, I won't say unpreventable source is electrical. Cooking, especially for older adults, is where it gets into positive.
Their memory is such that they're cooking something and on the telephone, I gotta get that answer, and I yak, and
Yep.
off goes the fire.
That's exactly. You guys, I know you don't live up here.
Yeah, Park Riverland.
Yeah, everybody else live here?
Yeah, I do.
Who doesn't, I guess, living here? Oh, you don't. I don't.
I use my oven most of the time, not the top of the stove.
Just a couple of you that don't. I know you have a very good fire alarm system where you live. I would hope you guys do. We'll leave it at that. I hope you do. But we'll go on. So I apologize. I'm going to kind of have to stand here and read a little bit to you. I don't have a button pusher for this. So everybody faces the same fire safety issues. It's the same from young right on up to old. In 2012, over 65 accounted for a third of the fire deaths in Massachusetts. It's a pretty staggering statistic when you stop and think about it. Older adults are more than 2 times as likely to die in a fire as any other age group. We're very lucky in this town, knock on wood. We have a very aggressive prevention division that takes care of inspections and stuff like that. and we do a lot of public education such as this out into the community. So the reason I asked how many people live up here, you guys have an excellent fire alarm system here. It gets tested at least 3-4 times a week when somebody cooks. Someone else cooks. I won't say any of you gentlemen have visited your apartments, but
First thing they say when they hear the alarm,
wasn't me.
no, it wasn't, oh, they say, who burned the stove?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gotta be a cover.
It is. And it's good in some ways because we know the alarm system works.
Yep.
The one thing I will say, those of you that are residents up here, when you cook, shut your bedroom doors. Because that's where your smoke detector is in your bedroom.
Yeah, I've done that.
That's the way to prevent us coming to dinner, basically, is for you guys to shut your bedroom
I
doors.
learned it exactly what you're saying.
Yep.
Smoking in the bedroom. thing.
Whoops. So, if you don't live up here, if you do live in your own home, or condo, townhouse, they call those that. What do they officially call those? Those townhouses where you are?
Condos, yeah.
Condos. So, obviously you need working smoke detectors in every level of your house. In today's code, it's in each bedroom. If you live in an older house, it's outside of the bedrooms within 10 feet. Test them monthly if you can. You live up here, they get tested a lot more often than monthly, most of the time. If you have battery detectors, if you live in an older home, or if you live in a home with hardwired electric detectors, they have a battery backup. Change those at least once a year. Your alarms need to be replaced after 10 years. What we do now is every time a home gets sold, we have to go in and do an inspection on it, make sure that the smoke detectors work and everything else. If the detectors are over 10 years old, we can't inspect the home. They have to be newer than 10 years old for us to sign off on that. And obviously they have to work. Good rule of thumb, when you change your clocks, change your batteries and your smoke detectors. It's the easiest way to remember it. They have a great little campaign with the Energizer Bunny that reminds people to do that. Anyone smoke? Only when you go too fast, right? Okay. So good, nobody smokes.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Me.
Everybody did a long time ago. The
Did
benefits
a lot
is
of things a long time ago.
The price said 75 cents a pack, I said, no way, I ain't paying that kind of money.
they kill for 75 cents a pack nowadays.
Cost me a nickel.
That's 75 cents a cigarette.
Yeah, it's more than that, I think, to be honest. So for you guys, that's good. This isn't really an issue. For a lot of folks up here, it's still an issue though. This picture here was taken in an apartment here, and a lot of the pictures that are in this presentation have been taken from actual incidents that we had up here. So even if you don't smoke, you get the grandkids, the great-grandkids that come and visit, make sure that your matches and your lighters are up high, up out of the way. Over almost half of the kids between the ages of 6 and 14 have played with fire at least once. Nearly 80% of those were playing with matches or lighters. I'm not sure where else they get fire to play with, but that's what the way the statistics shook out.
I got a question, to backtrack just a couple of slides. You had mentioned
That one?
if you, no, I forgot, yeah.
Yep.
They say to change your battery, whatever it is, every so often, or yearly, or whatever.
Yeah.
If you've got a system that'll simply beep, beep, let you know that your battery is low, do you wait for that to occur, or?
You
That's
can.
happened usually in our house anyway, when it goes beeping, then I make
Yeah,
sure we
then
have
it's
enough
time to
battery.
go around. You can do it that way, or you can, if you get yourself on a schedule, you know, if it's the first time you change the clocks, if you do it, you know, when you change the clocks,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the spring or in the fall, just get on the schedule.
It
So
doesn't
you
matter
know.
if they're battery operated or.
Or battery
electrically
backup,
operated.
yep.
Yeah.
Any of the electric ones have a battery in them,
Okay.
obviously, so they work when there's no power.
Yeah.
So they are battery backup. You can wait, but it's like wait until the remote batteries die.
Yeah.
You know, it's not necessarily gonna work when you need it to.
I just found out recently too, Les, that my CO detector was going off in my house. I couldn't get it to reset. We have hardwired smoke detectors that are battery backup. They didn't beep, and the batteries were all dead, and we lost power briefly. And because the batteries were dead, it went into alarm.
Huh.
And so the beeping doesn't always happen, or at least in my case, and they're brand new smoke detectors.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting.
So it drew down so fast, it was already almost dead and drew down, so. It's a good idea if you get yourself on a schedule. Cooking fires, everybody cooks. We don't have these guys to make breakfast every day, although it would be nice, I would think. I mean, everybody here cooks probably at least once a day, correct? In 2011, there were over 10,000 home fires involving cooking. It's a lot of fires. Statewide, not necessarily here in Georgetown, but statewide, that is a lot. There were 3 cooking-related fire deaths and over 100 injuries. That's civilian injuries and firefighter injuries. Over $6 million in 2011 in cooking-related fires. Top 3 factors are unattended equipment, you had combustibles too close, or stuff got turned on accidentally. Depending on how your stove's set up, you can bump it, you can turn it on. If you've got groceries or whatever on top, that can start it. 2 of the things, you can see it flipping there in the corner of the screen. Stand by your pan, like you said. Get a little bit older, you get a little bit forgetful. Or you get a lot forgetful. You forget that you're standing. If you put something on the oven to cook or on the stovetop to cook, stay there. Stay with that pan. In case of a grease fire, you don't want to put water on it. There are a couple of gentlemen here in the audience that were firefighters at one point in their lives. Cooking oil, maybe 3 of you then. You don't want to throw water on an oil fire or a grease fire because you'll take a stovetop grease fire and turn it into a very impressive kitchen fire. And you don't want that.
Baking soda is one of the best, if you have to throw flour.
Absolutely
not flour.
best is to take a lid and put a lid right on that fire. Put a lid on it.
It happened to me, when I was a kid, I was cooking one of those and I set the oil on fire in the pan. And I took the lid off, so I put the lid back on.
Yep.
And then I took it outside the house and let it cool off. But my wife's sister, she picked up the pan and get it out of the house, and it was so hot she dropped it.
Exactly. The best thing to do, if it happens to you tomorrow or tonight, whatever, put a lid on it, shut the fire off underneath it, or shut the stove off underneath it, and call us. Even if, because the last thing you need to do, might not necessarily be as spry as you used to be. You may have mobility issues, you may be in a chair. You don't want to take the chance, God forbid, of dumping that hot oil on yourself. Then you've turned a bad situation much, 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 much worse. Leave it. If the fire is out, leave it, call us, we'll help you take care of it. It's that simple. This photo was taken in an apartment here in Trussell Way. You want to keep your cooking area and your oven area, stovetop area, free from clutter and any grease that might be built up, which you might or might not be able to see. Right there, you see the blue that's underneath there? That's the top to a Rubbermaid container.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the phone's a little cooked. Where'd it go? And you can see that that's a little
Oh, yeah,
cooked as
it's right on
well.
top of it.
Yes, what happened was, whoever's apartment this was, had all this stuff up on top of the stove, hit it, bumped it, accidentally turned it on, and started that small stovetop fire, which luckily remained a small stovetop fire. Didn't really do any damage, it was probably more pride injured than anything else. And it probably stank to high heaven in their apartment for a couple of days.
But they learned a lesson.
But hopefully they learned a lesson. Hopefully. So, you want to keep your cooking area, you don't want to stack anything up on top. Keep your pot handles turned inward. Something that the PSAs have talked about for years and years and years. Always used to tell you to keep it so the kids didn't grab it. It's as much so you don't bump it and splash it on yourself or start anything on top as well. Use pot holders and oven mitts. Hot pans hurt when you grab them. Everybody knows that. Don't forget it. You want to never lean over a hot burner. If you've got something going on all 4 cooktops, you don't want to lean over, because the potential of, if you're wearing something that's loose fitting or long sleeve, the potential to set yourself on fire is pretty good. We worked in the ambulance in Lynn years and years ago, and we had a lady do this. She was making applesauce on her cooktop, on her stove, and she had something going here and something cooking there, and reached over and she burned herself horribly, horribly, horribly. So just a little story there, and it's not something you ever want to have happen to you. Again, use a timer if you're cooking something. Most ovens have them. And for, you know, $3.99 at the dollar store, you can get them. Again, stay in the kitchen. If you're grilling, frying, cooking, broiling, if you ever have to leave even for a short time, turn the stove off. Commit to cooking. If you're cooking, if you're making supper, stay in the kitchen. You want to stand by your pan, like I said. If you're baking anything, if you get something in the oven, check it regularly and stay in the house. We had a hard-boiled egg incident on Spruce Lane 2-3 weeks ago. We had to force entry into the apartment after the alarms had gone on to find smoke down to here because the lady was cooking hard-boiling eggs. I don't know when she,
Really hard.
I'm not sure when she started hard-boiling those eggs, but they were unfit for any kind of consumption other than she was done with them. I think she probably threw the pan away, but it happens more often, you know. If you start cooking something, stay with it. Don't wander away from it. Home heating. Those of you that live here, it's less of an issue. They're smaller apartments. They stay fairly well heated. I've never heard anybody complain that it's too cold or drafty. Yours is too cold and drafty?
No.
Oh, all right.
I got up one morning and awful hot, so I went out and shut all the thermostats down.
Yeah.
Still stayed hot. I opened the windows and the heater on in the living room stayed on.
Really?
Went around and checked the fuses. Something didn't kick out. What it was the thermostat itself that was faulty. And it didn't shut off.
Okay.
So, but they straightened it
Yeah.
out. I called the fire department on it.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah,
said,
great idea. One of the things I'll show is pictures from having stuff too close to heaters as well. So heating, to answer your question, heating is the second leading cause of fires. I said cooking, my apologies. The over 22 heating-related fires in Massachusetts, residential properties. A lot of these having to do with space heaters. Space heaters in some of the communities that might not have landlords that are on the up and up or take care of the systems in the house. And nationwide, over 36,000 fires and 250 deaths occur each year. Fireplaces, we don't necessarily have big fire problems with fireplaces and chimneys, and fires and chimneys, but they're constructed better than they used to be. You have less issues with them. Portable heaters is the big one. Space heaters, electric space heaters is the big culprit. This is in an apartment here in Trestle Way. Have it cleaned and serviced annually by professionals. And the reason I have that middle thing underlined is keep combustibles and things that can burn or melt away from them. And you'll see why in a minute. And if you're cold, don't ever use the oven to heat your home. You're just asking for trouble, especially if you have a gas range. Here they're electric, it's less of an issue, but it's still not a good idea. We found that mattress leaning against that dumpster when we were up here for a medical one day. Whoa, 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 back up, hold the phone, into the office. And that mattress was leaning against, was too close against that heater and had been for however long and had done that much damage. Why that didn't burst into flames in the middle of the night and burn the place to the ground, I have no idea. Just absolute luck. It wasn't, it wasn't their turn.
That wasn't long ago, was it?
4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago, no. So you want to keep anything that will burn at least 3 feet away from heaters or space heaters. If you have to have a space heater, not this, even if you live here, you have to have one. The newer ones have, they shut off when they tip. It's a nice little safety feature, so they can't tip over onto a blanket, it ignite the blanket or anything like that. And turn it off before you go to bed. Put an extra blanket on the bed, pull your blanket up to here, but don't leave your space heater going overnight. They're nice, but they're not necessarily the safest thing going.
Yeah. If you lose power and you've got electricity and some of the units you've got gas, so that means you lost your electric power, but what if you turn a gas stove on or you have a gas fireplace or that sort of thing? At least you're getting some heat.
Gas fireplace, yes, because it's made to heat the room. The problem with the gas oven is it might not be clean you may be introducing carbon monoxide into you've got your house all sealed up because you want it to stay warm. You could end up doing a lot of damage to yourself with the carbon monoxide that stove may be putting out. So,
And don't drag in a separate heater,
no,
whatever you do.
no, whatever you do, never a ventless heater because those, again, the carbon monoxide is not safe. The electric company here in town is great. We're blessed to have a municipal electric. Power's usually back on within no time at all. Usually. If you don't live here, and if you do have a wood stove or a fireplace, don't use any flammable liquids to start it. Common sense, which not necessarily is that common these days. Never burn trash, never burn paper in it. And if you do have one, and I know this one has a gray one, it has a nice metal screen to keep the sparks from jumping out onto the carpet or into the house, into the furniture. This was not up here, this was somewhere else in town, this picture. But never overload your electrical system. If you can, have a professional inspect your home's wiring at least once every 10 years. It's nice to say, it's nice to recommend, probably not the cheapest thing to have. You want to avoid using extension cords. Extension cords are for temporary use only. For the 20 minutes, a half hour, I have this plugged in, this is kosher. If you're powering your TV across the room from this and that with the VCR plugged in, don't rearrange your furniture so you can plug it right into the wall.
What do you do with these extensions that are made in China, which doesn't have too much of a control of quality?
I would recommend you use a better one, the big, thicker gauge ones, instead of the little, the brown ones or the white ones or the green ones that they sell at Christmas time for your tree. Those tend to be low quality. If you're gonna use one, if you have to use one for temporary reasons, use one of these at the end of it, because that will pop if need be. That breaker will do its job, hopefully.
What's that, the strips?
Yeah, the strips with the breaker built into them.
I got one of them.
Yeah. But I mean, even this was, you've got a breaker into one of or a strip that this was plugged into, that was plugged into, this was a mess. This was very lucky that the furniture wasn't any closer and that they smelled the smoke before any major damage was done. Outlet covers, if you have your grandkids here come to visit, make sure that outlets are covered. Little kids still do it, they're still not smart enough not to put stuff into electrical sockets.
He has oxygen tanks in his house. You got any problems with those?
No, we'll get to that. Don't smoke with it. We already covered that, so you're all set.
It's been a long time since I had one. Cigarette.
Replace your outlets if the plugs don't fit snugly. Over the years, you plug in, you unplug, you plug in, you unplug, you plug in, you unplug. They wear out. Replace them if they do, if that's an issue. Ground fault plugs are pretty much the norm now. They're the standard. You want to use those if you can in any rooms, basement room or a bathroom where water, or kitchen where water might be present. You want a GFI plug. That right there is also from up here. That is a wire that got against the heater and had heated up and smoked out. Candles. If you burn candles, put it in a sturdy metal glass or ceramic holder that they sell. Don't put it on a paper plate. Put it where it can't tip over. Middle of the table, middle of a kitchen counter. Never leave it unattended. Never leave it. Go out, go to the mall, go to the post office or uptown or anything like that, and blow it out before you go to bed. Again, common sense stuff. Not always so common.
We can't use candles either
You
because the
can't.
damn alarm will go off.
Probably not a bad thing. Is that something that comes from the offices? You can't have them?
Well, I don't know.
You're not supposed to?
You have to trigger the alarm.
Yeah. Nope, definitely. God forbid you ever have a fire in your home. In case of fire, you want to practice and know 2 ways out of every room. All these apartments have 2 ways out of there, a front door, you go back door. That's a bedroom up here. As you can see, that room right there is going to be pretty impossible to get out of the backup if you have to. And even more impossible for us to get in the backup if we have to.
Before you go far, I have to call
Is that one of our apartments?
Yes, that's an apartment up here. And,
You remember one of them?
there's been more than one of them over the years, but that's the one they happen to get a picture of. So I included it in this. Know the escape plans for your buildings. Your alarm, your evacuation plan's pretty easy. Out the front door when the alarms go off. Point at your neighbor because they set it off.
Appointment for a 26F on the phone. They're wondering when you're going to be there. I see on the calendar. We can head back and tell them.
That'll work. Call 911, especially if you don't live here. Your alarms go off.
Give me the address.
You're gonna get the bells. We're gonna get the bells. The box is gonna come into us. Always follow up with a 911 call just in case the alarm system isn't working. It's very good. Doesn't mean that it might potentially have its faults. Get out as soon as you discover a fire. Get out, stay out. Don't try to fight it. Get out, stay out. Those of you or your neighbors, maybe with mobility issues, that can't move as fast as they used to, maybe in a chair, help that person out of that building. But do not try and fight that fire yourself because you may find yourself cut off and in trouble. Again, this picture is in town. This is not from up here, but it is in town. On to oxygen safety. If you're using it, you should not smoke. Very good that you don't. Not everybody's that bright.
I got a big
Unfortunately,
sign on my door too.
the irony of this is this person's residence has that same sign on the door as well.
I can't read. You know,
As I say, not as I do, I think is what it boiled down to.
I've seen people with oxygen being towed or carrying it,
Oh, yeah.
smoking.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Obviously, using home oxygen increases the risk of fires and the risk of burns. And you want to keep home oxygen tubing away from any heat sources. This is a gentleman that was smoking in bed with his oxygen on. It caught the tubing on fire, and obviously those are the scorch marks in the carpet from
Which is worse, liquid oxygen or the other oxygen?
the other oxygen.
They're changing over me tonight to liquid oxygen.
Getting one of the short, looks like a beer can kind of
I
things.
got a big,
You get a
big
big
tank.
tall one now, but the liquid oxygen are bigger. They look, that for you, that will be better because it'll last longer.
Okay.
They're very safe. They're good, just as long as you're not trying to smoke on it. This gentleman, we've been to his house more than once for him smoking. I think I have another picture. 10 feet away from heat sources, we had another incident. We had a lady who was making coffee on the stovetop. Electric, one of the ceramic cooktops. Had her oxygen, it snaked all through the house and all throughout. And she was at the stovetop, and the cannula, the tubing, hooked under the edge of the coffee pot that was brewing, boiling. And did not burn her, but burned all the way back through the house and set the concentrator on fire. This doesn't really illustrate it well, but it looked like in like a Looney Tunes cartoon when you light a fuse and it's all the way back. She had a tiled floor in her kitchen, and that's what it looked like all the way back. It looked like an electric line had dropped. She luckily wasn't hurt. She was scared to death. It didn't really do any damage to anything but her oxygen system. But again, stay away from any heat sources when you're on your oxygen. And here's the second time. All right, this is the first time. This is him in the bed. There's the ashtray. There's the burnt cannula and the tubing. And that there is the second time that he did it. And you can see the burnt cannula. Again, there's the bed, right up to it.
You
can see
think
the
he would
scorch
learn
marks.
after once? wouldn't
You'd think he would. His other half heard him yell because there was actually real fire the second time. That's why there's an extinguisher. She had an extinguisher in the kitchen. She grabbed it and discharged the extinguisher on the fire the second time. So, oxygen safety, don't smoke. That's pretty much the takeaway.
Can I talk about extinguishers for just a second?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Years ago, if you had, and I keep 2 or 3 in the house, different parts of the house. If you had a problem and they suddenly went dead and you been sitting there for 2 years or 3 years or whatever, I would take it down to my local fire department, and they would pump it back up, and sometimes there'd be a charge, and sometimes they'd forget it, take it back with you.
Yeah.
You can't do that nowadays. I've asked,
No.
stopped at fire departments right here in town, and
Yeah.
what's the reasoning behind that?
The liability of it, we just don't do it. The extinguishers have changed. It used to be the old dry chemical
Yeah.
extinguishers, had a gas can or a gas cylinder. You would plug into the side and you
Yeah.
could replace that. They don't like that anymore.
Well,
Most of them are just disposable now, so,
they're probably
That's
cheap
what we-
enough, just get rid of it. And
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know of any place that'll recharge them for you anymore.
Yeah, they gave me an address with somewhere, you know,
Guy in Haverhill, I mean, there's a company in Haverhill, I think
Yeah.
that's who does these extinguishers as well.
What's the lifespan on a fire extinguisher? See if you had one sitting around for, you don't even know how long.
2 years.
I don't know. How's that? I honestly don't know. Dry chemical extinguishers, the problem you run into is they are charged with nitrogen mostly. That will leak out over the years. And, any of them have a gauge. If it's not in the green, it's obviously can be thrown away. The problem if you keep in your car, what'll happen is, and we find this on the trucks, what we do monthly is they cake down. So it's great, you think you've got a good fire extinguisher, look, it's in the green, yeah, hey! And you blow a nitrogen on the fire because it's caked in the bottom of the extinguisher itself, it packs down. So what we do is turn them upside down, give them a tap a little bit and shake that up to unstick the product that's in the bottom, the dry chemical.
We used to have the fire extinguishers in the trucks, but the kids where we used to deliver used to steal them.
That's another department.
That's your problem.
Does nitrogen ignite itself?
No,
Okay.
no, it's inert.
Okay.
That's why they use it.
That powder is basically baking soda.
Yeah, with a few other chemicals mixed in, yeah.
Purple K, they call it or
Oh, the
something.
Purple K, that's the airport stuff, that's the expensive stuff.
Well, what do they have on the trucks? Those-
Just dry chemical,
Yeah.
just regular dry chemical extinguishers.
I know
Yeah.
Captain Langdon was teaching us one time, and he told about this experience. A woman was cooking, a friend of his was cooking and checking, she was having a party of some kind, and caught fire, charred the outside of them, and so she used a chemical on it. And she says, is there any harm in that stuff? And he says, no, so they scraped it all, they served it, nobody said anything. It says basically baking
my.
soda.
Now, most of the new stuff, it's more than that. Some of the older ones, these have different chemicals.
Hello?
What was that?
Yeah, you don't want to eat the chicken that's had any of these on it. The Purple K is actually flammable metals.
Yeah.
So, quick on carbon monoxide, living up here, you're lucky, everything that you have is electric. You heat your stove, it's really a non-issue. Those of you that have anything that burns fossil fuels, whether it be gas or oil in your house, that's when carbon monoxide becomes an issue. It's invisible, colorless, odorless, created when fuels burn inefficiently. Result, faulty furnaces, gas appliances, generators, any gas-powered, anything, or gasoline-powered, will produce carbon monoxide. If you have a gas or oil furnace in your house, have it checked regularly, make sure that your furnace is venting cleanly and clearly, and your chimneys are checked annually by a professional. Bless you. Mass law requires at least one CO alarm within 10 feet of each sleeping area, so within 10 feet of each bedroom. Unborn babies, infants, children, seniors, such as yourselves, and people with heart or lung problems are at the greatest risk for CO poisoning. Affects you quicker because your lungs may not be as efficient as that 25, 35.
What if you have a car in a garage? You gotta make sure the doors are open.
Make sure the doors are open. And an open door will still not necessarily vent all the carbon monoxide. Some of it still will, especially depending on the weather.
Yeah.
Will still get vented out. Symptoms include headache, nausea, drowsiness. Extremely high levels of CO poisoning can be fatal, causing death within minutes, which is not what you want to see happen. Usually occurs in the winter months when heat sources may produce hazardous carbon monoxide levels. It can also happen this time of year. If your furnace is faulty, if your furnace kicks on, and you've got the house sealed up tight because it's hot out, it's just the same as when your house is sealed up tight because it's cold out. It's not gonna let that gas vent, it's gonna build up and can cause problems. We've been very lucky in this town, we have had 0 injuries or deaths from carbon monoxide poisoning, but we have had, since the law went into effect in 2007, we have had serious carbon monoxide incidences. We've walked in, our meters have picked up on it. The homeowners, excuse me, detectors have caught it before it became an issue for them, and we have walked in and found high elevated CO levels. The detectors, without a doubt, saved those families' lives.
There was a woman that died quite a few years ago from the furnace. The soot had built up on it.
Yep.
I'm ready to
Started up.
tell you.
Put carbon monoxide into the house.
Exactly, and that's, you wanna make sure everything's vented properly, everything's clean. That's all I have for you this morning, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Questions about anything, comments about anything? Anything that I left out?
How many people in the fire department?
Currently,
Are they full-time or part-time or whatever?
we have one full-time guy, that's the chief. Chief's the only full-time guy. Any of the guys that are doing shifts, let me back up. We are still primarily a paid call fire department, same as we've always been. What we do is we staff 7 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 in the morning till 9 at night. Weekends, 8 in the morning till 9 at night. We staff out of our call guys. So we have a total, I think, of 36 members right now,
That's fabulous.
with 4 more being interviewed next week.
Very good. Thank you.
So we're doing all right.
Yeah, I don't know.